Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about diuretics lecture 2. In previous lecture, that is diuretic lecture 1, we have seen about introduction to diuretic agents, urine formation, that is process of urine formation, diuresis, and classification of diuretic agents with their structures. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss about different diuretic agents. They are thiazide diuretics, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, and osmotic diuretics. So first one is thiazide diuretics, also known as the benzothiazidines. Benzothiazidine, according to its chemical structure, thiazide diuretics are also known as benzothiazidines. They are derivative of 1,2,4-benzothiazine 1,1-dioxide. They all carry 3-sulfamoyl 4-halogenated benzene ring, as we discuss in its structure, right? And all exhibit identical properties as well as identical mode of action, site of action, and same range of clinical application. They may differ in their duration of action, where drug having lipophilicity displayed longer duration of action, right? This diuretics from benzothiazidine class have the similar mode of action, similar properties, similar site of action, and same range of clinical application, but they differ in the duration of action. According to its lipophilicity, they are differ into their duration of action. Having the more lipophilicity shows the longer duration of action. Next, structure-activity relationship of benzothiazidines or thiazide diuretics. See here, basic structure of thiazide diuretics is given and number of different position is assigned. So start with the second position. The 2 position can tolerate small alkyl groups as methyl group. So here substitution of the ring nitrogen atom at the second position, specially alkyl group, specially methyl group, increases the activity, right? And second ring nitrogen at 4th position cannot tolerate the methyl group. If 4th nitrogen group is substituted with methyl group, then it will lead to the decrease in activity, right? So only second nitrogen can be alkylated with methyl group, and which lead to the increase in diuretic activity. If we discuss about first position, that is SO2 group, at first position SO2 group is present. SO2 group can be replaced by CO, which is bioisosteric group of SO2 group, CO group, that is carbonyl group, with increase in activity, right? If SO2 group is replaced with carbonyl group, it will lead to the increase in activity. For example, quinethazone, right, as well as metolazone, right? It is due to the bioisosteric replacement of SO2 with CO group, right? Next point is that substituents at 3 position determine the potency and duration of action of thiazides, right? Substitution in third position especially hydrophobic substitution, right? Group or substituents which are hydrophobic in nature may increase 1000 times diuretic activity, especially saliuretic activity. The substituent which should be at the third position include CH2Cl group, CHCl2 group, CH2C6H5, that is benzyl group, then CH2S, CH2C6H5, that is benzyl thiamethyl group. Right? So this type of substituent, lipophilic substituent, increases the saliuretic activity, that is 1000 times. And here the increase in activity is correlated with lipid solubility. Increase in lipophilicity or lipid solubility of the compound will lead to the increase in activity. For example, trichlormethiazide, benroflu, methiazide, etc. Next one is saturation of carbon-carbon double bond between the third and fourth position. See in figure here, at carbon between third and fourth double bond is present. If this bond is saturated, then it will lead to the increase in potency of this class of diuretics approximately 3 to 10 folds. Right? So in short, saturation of double bond increases the activity. Moving toward next substitution, direct substitution of the 4th, 5th and 8th position with an alkyl group usually result in diminished diuretic activity. Right? So there should not be any substitution on 4th, 5th and 8th position with alkyl group. Right? Next, at 6th position, substitution of the 6th position with an activating group is essential for diuretic activity. Right? Here the base substituent include chloro, bromo, trifluoromethane or methyl and nitro groups lead to the increase in diuretic activity. If here hydrogen and amino group are present, then it is weakly active group, hydrogen and, that means unsubstituted 6th position, or amino group are less active group or weak active group. Right? Chloro, bromo, trifluoromethyl and nitro groups are activating group at 6th position, and that will lead to the increase in activity. Next, at 7th position, sulfamyl group is essential for diuretic activity. A free sulfamyl or potentially free sulfamoyl group at 7th position is essential for activity. N7-caproyl chlorothiazide is excreted as chlorothiazide. The loss of sulfamoyl group eliminated the diuretic activity. That's why sulfamoyl group at 7th position is essential for activity. Here free sulfamoyl group is present. Right? So it is all about the structure activity relationship of thiazide diuretics. Next, mechanism of action of thiazide diuretics. Here figure is given in which this is part of nephron, right, or you can say nephron cell. Here inside the nephron cell or left side to the cell, lumen or tubular lumen is given in which urine extract or filtrate is present. On another side of the nephron cell, blood vessels, basolateral blood vessels are present, so that this part is directly contact with the blood, and here this part is directly contact with the urine filtrate. In these cells, different pump as well as transporters are present, right? And the primary site of action of thiazide diuretic is distal convoluted tubules. Right, see here in this part, this is the figure of the whole nephron. Right, so in nephron this part is Bowman pouch or glomerular filter, where blood get filtrate, right, and enter into the nephron. Right, this part is the proximal tubule. This one is the loop of Henle, descending loop of Henle. This one is the ascending loop of Henle. Then this one is the distal tubule, and at last collecting duct. Right, so thiazide act on this distal tubule. Right, so primary site of action of thiazide diuretic is the distal convoluted tubules. This agent cause diuresis mainly by inhibiting sodium chloride symport. Here see, sodium chloride symport is given. Right, sodium chloride symport has the function of transporting sodium ion and chloride ion simultaneously, right, during reabsorption in the urine formation. Right, so thiazide diuretic inhibit this symport system, mainly sodium chloride symport at the luminal membrane in the distal portion of the ascending loop of Henle or initial part of the distal convoluted tubules. This is dependent of any effect on carbonic anhydrase. They also increase excretion of potassium ion, and due to their direct action on the renal vasculature, glomerular filtration rate may also reduce. At this therapeutic dose, they exhibit mercurial-like activity by impairing chloride transport mechanism. Right? So, these drugs, thiazide diuretic, inhibit the reabsorption of urine. Right? Inhibit the reabsorption step. As we see in different step of urine formation, there are 3 steps: glomerular filtration, reabsorption, and tubular secretion. Right? So this drug inhibits the reabsorption of the sodium and chloride ion. That's why increases the volume of urine into the tubules and cause the diuresis. Right? Because inhibition of the sodium chloride symport transporter, that's why inhibit the reabsorption of the sodium ion and chloride ion, and that's why increases the sodium and chloride ion concentration into the filtrate, urine filtrate, and that's why it also inhibit the absorption of the water. Right? So ultimately increases the sodium and water content into the urine. That's why increases the urine volume and cause the diuresis. Right? Thiazide diuretics cause the loss of sodium and water, hypocalemic metabolic alkalosis, and increase calcium ion reabsorption. Right? Therapeutic uses of thiazide: hypertension, congestive heart failure, renal calculi, that is nothing but the kidney stone, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, chronic renal failure, and in chronic renal failure it is used as an adjunct to loop diuretics. Also used in condition of osteoporosis with other drugs. Adverse effects of thiazide diuretics are gastrointestinal disturbances, allergic reaction, hypokalemia, and It should be used with caution in patients with suffering from diabetes insipidus and renal hepatic fault. Hypokalemia because it causes the excretion of the potassium ion. Hypokalemia is nothing but the lower blood level of the potassium ion, right? And this diuretic causes the loss of potassium ion. That's why it will lead to the hypokalemic condition. Next one is synthesis of chlorothiazide. Start with the 3-chloroaniline. Precursor is 3-chloroaniline. React with chlorosulfonic acid, right? And cause the loss of water molecule and form 3-chloroaniline 4,6-disulfonyl chloride. Right? What happened? From chlorosulfonic acid, OH group is replaced and the remaining group is attached with the benzene ring, and where this group is attached to the benzene ring, at that position, from that position H plus ion is released, right? Proton is removed. So it forms the water molecule and form the 3-chloroaniline 4,6-disulfonyl chloride molecule, right? This molecule react with ammonia and cause amination of disulfonyl chloride group, right? So this group converted into sulfonamide group, SO2Cl group converted into SO2NH2 group, right? And form the corresponding sulfonamide derivative. Now this sulfonamide derivative is heated with the formic acid and it will produce the chlorothiazide. It is the synthesis of chlorothiazide. Next class is carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. This drug inhibit the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, right? These are the agents which inhibits the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, and this is the enzyme which is located at the cytoplasm and on the brush border of the proximal tubule cells, right? And this enzyme catalyzes the reversible reaction, that is H2O react with the CO2 molecule and form the carbonic acid, right? Carbonic acid, H2CO3, that is carbonic acid, and carbonic acid is degraded into proton H plus ion and bicarbonate ion, that is HCO3 minus, right? So this reversible reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. Here generated H plus ion is exchanged for the filtered sodium ion into the luminal fluid, right? So it is the important role into the urine formation, right? During reabsorption, H plus ion in lumen is exchanged with the sodium ion into the luminal fluid. Now, mechanism of action of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. See here again, one figure of the nephron is given, right? Carbonic anhydrase inhibitors act on the proximal tubules, right? Here in proximal tubule, this normal process is given and this drug inhibits the carbonic anhydrase, right? And here carbonic anhydrase, function of the carbonic anhydrase is given, conversion of H2O plus CO2 into the H2CO3, right? It is catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, right? And it is occur into the proximal convoluted tubule cell, right? In lumen, it also affects the formation of H2O and CO2 from the H2CO3, right? So commonly inhibition of the carbonic anhydrase inhibit the formation of the H plus ion, right? This is the whole cycle. First see the whole cycle which involve the carbonic anhydrase, right? Water molecule and carbon dioxide react with each other in presence of carbonic anhydrate and form H2CO3, that is carbonic acid, right, inside the proximal convoluted tubule cell. And this carbonic acid is converted into H plus and bicarbonate ion. This H plus ion is exchanged with the sodium ion during the reabsorption, right, with the help of sodium proton antipode, right. That means H plus ion is moved into the urine from the tubule cell and sodium ion is reabsorbed from the lumen to the cell, right. Now this release H plus ion into the lumen react with the bicarbonate ion which is present in the lumen and form the carbonic acid. This carbonic acid again converted into H2O and CO2 molecule with the help of enzyme carbonic anhydrase, and this get reabsorbed by the tubule cell, right. Now inhibition of this enzyme lead to the inhibition of formation of H plus ion, and that's why inhibit the reabsorption of the sodium ion, right. So this drug cause the net result in inhibition of bicarbonate reabsorption in the proximal tubule, and that's why it will lead to the prompt but mild alkaline diuresis, right. And the distal sodium takes place only with potassium which is lost in excess, right. The urine produced under this acetazolamide, that is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor action, is alkaline and rich in bicarbonate ion, right, which is matched by both sodium and potassium ion. And continued action of this drug depletes the body bicarbonate and cause acidosis, right. So it is the mechanism of action. Generally action of this carbonic anhydrase include loss of sodium bicarbonate, hypokalemia, metabolic acidosis, and tolerance develops after 2 to 3 days. Synthesis of acetazolamide, ammonium thiocyanide react with hydrazine and form 1,2-base thiocarbamoyl. This lead to cyclization and form the cyclic heterocyclic ring, that is thiadiazole, right, thiadiazole ring, right. And this thiadiazole ring react with acetic anhydride and converted into corresponding amide substituted ring, right. On chlorination, it is SH group is converted into SO2Cl group, right, thionyl chloride group, and on amination, this SO2Cl group is converted into sulfonamide group and form the acetazolamide compound, right. So it is the synthesis of acetazolamide. Next, therapeutic uses of the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors include in condition of cystinuria, right, then glaucoma, acute mountain sickness, and metabolic alkalosis. Adverse effects of these diuretics are acidosis and anticonvergent effect, because this drug also causes the direct inhibition of the carbonic anhydrase enzyme into the central nervous system. That's why it will lead to the anti-convergent activity. Next diuretics is osmotic diuretics. They are low molecular weight, non-metabolized inert substances. They prevent reabsorption of water. They are filtered in glomerulus but cannot be reabsorbed. Right? They prevent the reabsorption of water because they remain into the lumen. They remain into the lumen urine filtrate and increases the concentration of the lumen filtrate, right, that is urine, and that's why it prevents the reabsorption of water, right. They are filtered in glomerulus but cannot be reabsorbed. Their presence into the urine leads to an increase in osmolarity of the filtrate. They increase the concentration of the urine. To maintain osmotic balance, water is retained in the urine, and that's why increases the urination. Examples of osmotic diuretics are urea, mannitol, sucrose, etc. They may be classified into two groups: osmotic electrolyte and osmotic non-electrolyte diuretics. Osmotic electrolyte diuretics include potassium and sodium salts, and osmotic non-electrolyte diuretics include urea, mannitol, etc. Therapeutic uses of osmotic diuretics include: it reduces pre-surgical or post-trauma intracranial pressure. It has the prompt removal of renal toxin, right? It is used to remove the renal toxins. Adverse effects include hypernatremia. Hypernatremia is nothing but the increase is the sodium blood level, right, into the blood, increases the sodium ion concentration, right, because during diuresis or urine formation in reabsorption step, sodium is reabsorbed but water cannot be reabsorbed, right. So as compared to water, sodium ion is more reabsorbed into the blood, and that's why it will lead to the increased sodium ion concentration into the blood, right, and that is the hypernatremia. So main osmotic diuretics produces the difference in osmolarity between blood and urine lumen. That's why increased osmolarity into the urine lumen lead to the inhibition of the reabsorption of water. It retains the water to maintain the osmotic balance with the blood, right, and that's why it will lead to the increase in urine volume, and that's why it will lead to the diuresis, right. Thank you.